Hey, what's up? It's me, your girl Nia. I am coming to you from Black Exploration with Nia. Drinking your water and minding your business is the best. That's when you literally have a chemical imbalance that is causing the personality defect of narcissism. I only want to talk about this because I have supported men through this. And I know that when men are in dark times, they drink alcohol or they have lots of sex. What value
Can you
bring to this person and see in them?
So how much did you have to fix your relationship with yourself first in order to have a successful relationship with someone else? Even in the realm of dating.
When it comes down to it, people's opinions are not facts, it's just their opinions. Hey guys, what's up? It's me, your girl Nia, and we are back for another episode of Black Exploration with Nia. Yay! So I have Miss Stevie here again, and we are going to be talking about different forms of intimacy. So you guys already know how we get down here. We are all about being authentic, open, and transparent. And we cover 4 areas of a holistic background and lifestyle. So, financial freedom, physical and mental health, spirituality, and intimacy. So, this episode is a segue off of episode 5 that went over really good with the audience. So, I found that you guys like talking about intimacy. So, in this particular episode, we're going to be having girl talk all about different forms of relationships. Now, in the traditional sense, a man, a woman, a woman and a woman, a man and a man, however you want to get down, have a monogamous relationship. They have some kids, get a job, a house, those stereotypical white collar, what do you call it? White, blue fence. What is that?
White picket fence.
White picket fence, right? And we know in 2022 that the way of living is non-existent. There's other ways of connecting through polyamory, do forms of matriarchal relationships, same-sex relationships, and that's the polyamory, right? Open relationships, polygamous relationships. There's so many different forms of relationships, and there's different dynamics of relationships that don't even have a name to it. So in this particular episode, I am not an expert. I don't claim to be an expert. I'm actually a newbie when it comes to really understanding what different forms of relationships look like. So I just want to have the beginner's conversation. So for those of you who are all about like relationships and y'all want to be enthusiasts about it, I want you guys to come on the show. Like have these higher level conscious conversations with us. So I'm going to just discuss my own personal journey when it comes to different forms of relationships and where I'm at. And my self-exploration when it comes to that. And then Stevie's going to add her insight. So I'll just start. I'll tell you where I'm at when it comes to different forms of relationships. I think that through my experience with being a very religious woman in a form of dating, I really don't have a lot of experience when it comes to like non-traditional relationships. Where I'm at in my life right now is that I'm just open to connecting on different levels with different people. And so what that looks like for me is I would classify myself as a heterosexual woman. I love monogamy. I'm really open. My daughter is actually teaching me a lot about being open and being more transparent and fluid when it comes to relationships. I appreciate her maturity when it comes to having conversations with me, especially with me being her mother, because
Definitely.
there's sometimes I'll say things that are very one-dimensional, and she'll let me know. She'll let me know. My best friend is also in a same-sex open relationship, and so I've just through her transitional phase of being a very traditional woman, and we connected on that level to now she's non-traditional and she's teaching me different levels of being in a relationship. I think through those things I'm able to catch my biases that I have, and just having these candid conversations. And I appreciate the space for me to be ignorant. And I also appreciate the level of accountability that I have in my ignorance, because as a female leader, I have to, as a person of growth, I have to be open to growth. And I think that when people get in positions of power, they believe that what got them into power is going was going to keep them in that authority. But I am the type of person that I believe that a person of authority should be very open, should be very humble, should be approachable, but most importantly, be always willing to grow from different people around her or him. What do you think, Stevie? What's your analogy of of relationships of like same sex, polyamorous, polygamy?
So I'm open to all that and for like other people as far as being options on the table.
Okay.
I'm a bisexual queer woman.
Okay.
And I've been in a traditional man woman marriage, monogamous situation. I've been in a monogamish situation that's leaned more toward like possibly polygamy, but in an unbalanced way.
Yeah.
Polyamory, not polygamy.
Yeah.
Polyamory, but in an unbalanced way, favoring the man and not myself. And I just think that at the core of all of these is just a matter of trust and understanding and like agreements.
Right.
Because everybody's not going to fit in these boxes. Even if you create, a standard and a rubric around how you want to move, it might need to change and adjust.
Right.
But like being on the same page about what that looks like and doing that is so crucial. And I just found that it's rare for two people to be on the same page to be able to navigate that fluidity.
Yeah.
And it just causes a lot of unnecessary confusion and chaos, I think.
Yeah.
When you add too many people to the mix.
Yeah, and I think what it's not. So I read this book, and I can't remember the name right now. Terrible, but when I think about it, I'll let you guys know what that is. Please hold me accountable for that. But in the book, it was talking about. So I'm really into ancient Kemetic history.
Mm-hmm.
I'm into past experiences that we've had when it comes to relationships and learning about those. So one of the things that it said in the book was that your aura, energetic wise, some people's auras are so grand that they can take care of multiple people across the board when it comes to relationships. And that's how they used to gauge, okay, can this person have more than one wife? And it was not in the sense of like, I want it, therefore I can have it. It was like, I have provided for this wife or this partner in this way, that person is fulfilled. Now I still have more energy left. Let me go and get someone else to share that energy with. If those energies align, then let me go get somebody else. And that was the constitute of an open relationship or a polygamous relationship. It wasn't based off like impulse that I feel like we have now. And so in that regard, I can understand, the level of accountability because what I feel, and this is my personal opinion, it's not fact, okay? What I feel now, I think that we have a lot of people who are not emotionally mature and self-aware enough to be in polyamorous or polygamous relationships. I think that we have a lot of people who are emotionally disconnected and acting out in a way that allows them to have that sexual energy because it's more of like fulfilling a need. And this mindset comes from, I've supported people, a lot of men who have been in open relationships and been in polyamorous relationships, and they don't have the emotional intelligence I feel to be in one. Because it's from a very selfish standpoint. It's from a standpoint of, I need to have choices because I can't deal with a lot of women. So that's why there are a lot of women. Or I have women that are like, either they've had some history of sexual assault, and so they just have a natural high sex drive, or they're really career focused and just like a businessman mindset, their energy goes where they travel. And so they'll be on the apps and then they'll just meet different people on apps or in these different organizations, and they'll connect through that way, and that be that shared experience that they have with each other. But it's never a relationship that's I feel copacetic. I think it's more of like situational than it is fulfilling. What are your thoughts?
I couldn't agree more. I think that's a great way to put it. I was going to say, in my situation, even if I thought that there was a possibility that this person did have more capacity to engage differently, but then but then I realized afterwards that that was only because I was selling myself short. I actually wasn't getting what I deserved and what I needed for that to be the case.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there's a lot of different, it gets bastardized in a lot of different ways. I was hopeful though, which is why I experimented, because the idea of it was interesting, of like being able to share energy and not own a person, and which, yeah, I mean, that still shouldn't be the case, but I just think that for where I am in my life, cutting down the chaos that comes with
Right.
inserting multiple energies into a dynamic.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to be on the wave like that.
Yeah, because you bring up a great point. Like, people's instability can become your instability if you invite that instability into your life. And I think that people who are in open relationships or polygamous relationships, there's a level of maturity that you have to have. Like, my best friend is in an open relationship, but her and her partner are such best friends. Like, tell each other everything. And then I met this other guy who, him and his partner, they have a don't ask, don't tell rule. And I think that is so dangerous for so many different.
I guess they feel like it's more safe. Maybe maybe it's a conjunction rule. Like they have a don't ask, don't tell, but they already have some like standard, like this is how far boundaries, and then anything in between, just you don't gotta tell me about it.
I don't think that that's the case. I think that he is just a very dominant energy and she's submissive. And so, it's 2022 and people got to pay their bills and live how they live, and get their emotional needs met. And I feel personally that it's more of a, if I don't, I'll lose situation. Right. And I think that, and one of the things that I want to really empower women, when they're making these decisions is to, if you're bold enough to allow a man to do that, be bold enough to hold space for yourself too, and not like put his needs before ours. Because I feel like that's part of a woman's conditioning, and a part of her healing process is owning her value and her voice when she does sign up to put her big girl panties on, And so I feel like for me, there's a lot of and again, I keep having this conversation, and people don't like. When I have it, but I really want to hold women accountable for being grown women. I think that we don't do that enough, and this is not bashing women at all, right? I think that for the sake of the conversation of us being two women, that we can leave the ownership and responsibility of not talking about men. Like, in this situation, I want to talk about women in general, and I think that there's a level of like maturity even if you get married. There's a level of maturity if you choose to have children. There's a level of maturity that you choose to have when you're in a relationship, that because we don't have the emotional capacity to hold space for these conversations, we want to bash the person who's willing to have the conversations. And for me, I've gotten to a point in my growth and evolution and in my healing journey that I don't really care about people liking me.
Amen to that.
I try to do the whole friend thing. I'm trying to do the whole people pleasing thing. It's just not healthy for me. It's more healthy for me to acknowledge the fact that not everybody's going to like me than to try to be liked. And for me, I've been stunted a lot, but I have so much to say that it literally makes me imbalanced and start to go crazy. So I rather, use my voice, and that's a part of your chakras being open and aligned, is that you have an opinion, you state the opinion because it's on your consciousness, and that is a form of self-mastery. So I'm not in a space to make friends. I'm just in a space to have conversation. And I really love grown women conversations. And I invite grown women to have more grown women conversations. And little girls who are grown women to be mature enough to sit down and listen, you know, because it's okay to learn. It's okay to learn. And it's also okay not to feel like you have to be age appropriate to learn, because there's some women who are 50 years old, 60 years old, and they're little girls.
Yeah, where else would we have these conversations? Because I remember growing up, I just felt like, you know, there comes a point where you can sit at the grown, you know,
Yeah.
grown table and you get the tea from the aunties and stuff. But even still, there's no like really in between phase of like, okay, this is what's gonna happen. You just have to go out there on your own, and you come back there like, yeah, that was some shit, wasn't it? Like, auntie, why you didn't tell me? Why you didn't explain what I was gonna be experiencing? Not just like the rules or statutes or whatever, like the, you know, the simple stuff or the trite stuff, but like, why you didn't tell me, okay, when you get into this situation,
Exactly,
this is what's going to be going down. You got to be mindful of this, and this. Otherwise, you know, somebody can try to manipulate you. Like, why you don't put me on game?
Exactly.
So what other spaces will we have, I guess, culturally, where you can go and really have these deeper conversations before it happens and before you start fucking up?
Right. And I hope that through this conversation that we on this podcast too, this can be a space for those women who are bold and brave enough to have these conversations, to have a safe space to have a conversation. Because I'm not interested in women dressing up grown. I actually want to like feel your grownness and have a grown conversation with you. And that takes a level of boldness, you know, but not being demeaning. Because a lot of women think like, oh, just because I'm grown, I can dominate you. No, you can't actually. Like, you can't do that. But I feel like a mature, healthy grown woman can have a conversation where even if her emotions are involved, and again, that goes back to the conversations with my daughter. My daughter was having grown women conversations with me at 14. And I couldn't take it. I would be like, you little girl. You like,
oh my God, that's so triggering. My mom used to always call me little girl. Just because she knew it bothered me. Even as an adult, she would try to say that just to get under my skin. And I'm like, damn, that's cold. Like,
yeah.
So it's always this reaching for the carrot. How can I become a woman?
Exactly. Enough for her to not belittle me when I am being mature. And that's why it's so important, I feel like, for mothers to go to therapy. Because in therapy, I realized my daughter was triggering my inner child. And I was taking that out on her and demeaning her. So one of the things I always say
that's a big insight.
Hell yeah. That's why I love therapy, though. And accountability, too, because I raised my daughter to be a force. What I didn't want her to be a force is to me in my household. I wanted her to be outside of that. But, I mean, I always say to people, my favorite thing to say is make it make sense, right? Like, my accountant, she's not my accountant no more because she was too IRS-y. She was. And now she worked for the IRS. I knew it, though, because my intuition was like, she's too IRS-y. I just needed her to make it make sense. I don't care if it didn't make sense. I just needed her to make it make sense, right? Mm-hmm. So I just take the same analogy with my daughter. I don't care if I don't make sense. I just need you to make it make sense. Right. And I was misleading her, and that's called toxic leadership. And toxic leadership starts in the home. And with me, toxic leadership has been something that's been generational. And so part of my healing process and my healing journey was I never wanted to be a toxic leader to my daughter. And so be careful what you ask for, because then God gave me a child that held me accountable to not being a toxic leader. And I groomed her to hold others accountable, but not me. And so I had to go to therapy to really be able to sit with, when she triggers me, that's my own shit.
Wait,
I can't belittle
her. I have questions.
Yeah.
Because a lot of this, it makes sense. But what I'm noticing is like you have to really get over your ego.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
for sure.
You have to step outside, have to turn yourself inside out in order to really have these conversations and see yourself.
Yep.
Like, how?
Because one of the things in being a safe person and a safe caregiver is that you have to be safe. You have to be a safe person for your children to come to have these conversations with. And if they can't feel safe to hold you accountable when you're wrong, then you're an unsafe person. And so I never wanted to be an unsafe.
That's a good benchmark.
Yeah, yeah. It holds me accountable even for my 6-year-old, who he's having some developmental stuff too that he's going through, and I have to be patient with him. So that means I have to get down on his level when it comes to his spontaneous movements and how he kind of moves. He's even humbling me to kind of have patience for him. But the crazy part about it, and this is how just spirit works and God works, is that I'm realizing that I date a lot of 6-year-olds in the
Really?
past. Yeah. Yeah. And I'm learning that through the level of grace I have to give my son. And, the first thing that I want to go out and do is get a man, because I don't want to deal with my son. I want to deal with someone who's older and, more mature. So I think unconsciously a lot of women get in relationships when it's just them and their kids because they don't want to deal with their kids.
Damn.
Yeah.
I never thought about that.
It's such an impulse for me to try to go get a man because I don't want to deal with my kids.
So where would your kids be?
In the home. But I would have a distraction.
Got you.
Yeah, I would have a distraction. I wouldn't have to face it. So even like with me, like even with the level of self-awareness that I'm having to kind of not be impulsive with my responses, is I'm learning a lot of my relationship skill building from the way that I interact with my children. And I feel like honestly it's preparing me for 3 things. Not to date immature, right? To be self-aware of my own ego, right? And to be a stable caregiver.
Where else do we learn relationship skills?
Through
Except
Instagram,
in-house.
TikTok, and social media. We learn it through. I know I learned relationship skill building. So I'm an 80s baby, but I was raised in the 90s. So I learned that through movies, through Black movies. And so sometimes I be like, I speak to my best friend. I'd be like, I feel like our lives are 90s movies at this point, because the way that we have manifested our lives, it could be a Black movie. So I don't know where God's taking me. Maybe I'll be a screenwriter, because I know if I was to write a movie, the shit was fire. Sometimes I'd be like,
Tyler Perry type.
no, it wouldn't be Tyler Perry type. It would be more of a mix between The Best Man, Boomerang, and A Different World. It would be a mixture between those two.
Comedy novella.
Yeah, it would be a mixture between those two, because I feel like I've lived my life so spirit-led because I didn't have proper caregivers or examples of like what stability looks like. I just try to shoot my shot when it comes to stability and see what happens. And I feel like this is a gift and a curse when you choose to live like that. And the only reason why I feel like more of us, we were talking about women allowing themselves to make mistakes more. I think the most important thing that I've learned just through not continuing to have cycles of behavior to perpetuate with the relationship ability I saw growing up was because I knew that there was something greater. And when you're a cycle breaker, a lot of your learned behavior is through trial and error, because you're the first. And as a level of self-acceptance that you have to kind of step into on the self-awareness level, to be able to be like, okay, this isn't working for me, so then what does? What do I like? What works with me? What works for me, and what is working through me? And so taking a step back and allowing myself to make those mistakes, I feel like has enriched me on a lived behavior, because I'm a scientist by nature, but I'm also realizing that a lot of scientists fall short when they think they know. And they don't have a lot of the lived experience. And a lot of the scientists that we do have out there that talk about developmental capacities and brain chemistry and neuroscience, they're white men. The most protected person with the highest privilege. And I had a thought this morning that was just like, and I'm not a racist. I have to put that out there too. I'm just the honest person. There's no way that a privileged person could know how to really lead.
Yeah, of course.
There's no way. And a lot of the benchmarks that we have, consciously and unconsciously, are from people that have privilege. And we are gauging our self-value, productivity, and life happiness from privileged people's perspectives. And that is very, very dangerous. Even our credit scores. I'm over here hella mad at my credit score because it's not an 800. But it's like,
And I used to be
What?
so anal about that. I was like, it gave me so much anxiety and wanted to be perfect with it.
yeah,
And same with like the student loan stuff and any debt. Now I'm like, okay, it is what it is.
exactly.
That's part of that. I'm allowed to make a lot of mistakes. Like, what you gonna do? Come get me? Are you gonna come get me?
I mean, they will come get you after a while, but I'm just saying, as far as like the access to resources, we only do that. We like the only reason why I care about my credit score is because I want access to resources. It's not because I care about my credit score. And that's a survival technique. And I think that it's one that's rooted in privilege that we don't talk about because there are the haves nots and the haves.
Right.
And it's very demeaning when you think about it because we're all growing and learning developmentally. So I kind of want to piggyback to what would be your ideal relationship if you can have any type of relationship that you can create for yourself?
I haven't thought about it in a while because that's not really I haven't been focused on that. So,
Okay, so then tell me your ideal relationship with yourself.
an easy one,
Mm-hmm.
a cozy one, a generous one. Yeah, like a safe one.
Mhm.
It's amazing. Like when you're talking, I was thinking about all the times I was accepting some form of abuse for connection.
Mm.
And then even in the absence of other people, of welcoming that from other people to have connection, I like did to myself. So like, I think just something easy, something in organic and real, right? Like,
Yeah.
am I being present with myself? How do I actually feel about this?
Right.
Do I like it? Am I like unsure? And just living authentically in each of those moments. And then, in any relationships that I'm having, then, I would expect the same thing in order for us to have a genuine connection that's deeper than some, shallow shit. So, yeah, having that sense of safety, and I love to be challenged. I love to be able to like have someone help me think outside the box, like blow my
Yeah.
mind. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I was just thinking on the way here because I was replaying a lack of conversation I've been having with this person, and I was like, yeah, it's not gonna work out. And I was just thinking like, okay, well, like why? And I remember this guy. He was older. He was from Memphis. I was just having a conversation with him. He said, I can tell when you're not entertained, you leave. And I was like, what are you talking about? He said, sweetheart, you have way too many options and too many questions. He said, one man can't have that much entertainment and they can't answer that many questions that you have. He said, so you either need to pick a hobby, read more books.
Wow. That's crazy.
But these are the type of conversations that men be having with me. Men like telling me what I should do to make my own self
That turns me off
happy.
so much because I'm like, so to answer your question, if I'm in a situation I'm looking at, is this a good relationship, or if I want to be in a relationship, I need somebody who's gonna go down the rabbit hole with me. Like, come on, let's jump.
Man,
Now you got to go read some more books. Let's talk.
men be keeping it so real with me. They do not like. I think that I think the reason why I could attract men to like this is because I appreciate it. You know, I mean, because I'm the type of person you don't have to start off fake with me. I'm just not.
I mean, really, these are like focus group data points. You're just gathering data.
I'm just like, you don't have to present yourself. I mean, of course, I'm into the whole charisma. Like, I'm a 5-star chick. Like, you better, be able to. That's just a standard. Like, a standard. It has nothing to do with like compatibility as far as like conversation. I appreciate, and I say this in the most endearing way. So I think that people like to take things out of context because they're triggered. I've grown up around such real niggas. Like, and I have to say real niggas because, like, I'm from the Bay and, like, it's a difference. And, like, when you say he's a real nigga, like, what I'm talking about. My daddy, my brothers, my uncles, I always tell people the way I learned how to swim was my uncle. He tucked me and he threw me in 10 feet and told me to fend for myself. That's how I learned how to swim. And then they were not apologetic. The women in my family were just like, swim your way out. Nobody came and saved me. That has been my life, right? Not saying that that's appropriate, right? I've gone through a lot of therapy, life coaching, and healing practices. But when you're raised a certain way to receive information in a certain way, and then a person comes to you and they're very like around the bush and I gotta go here and go there, and it doesn't align with me. And I've tried, for the sake of like not showing up in that way, because that could be considered like toxic in a way, right? If it's too abrasive.
Like I get people call me Kurt all the time. I mean, but it's one of those things where I'm like, I'm not gonna care just because you want me to say more words, but it's making me think of like what you're saying. Like, just get to it.
Just get to it. Get to it.
When people be like, "Hey, can we talk?" I don't want to spend 5-10 minutes small talking. I'm like, well, you said you want to talk. What you want to talk about? When we meet, we talk about the thing. Let's get right to it. It's on top of the agenda.
Well, that's what they say. That's a feminine quality and trait that men like. So I'm the type of person, and I also feel like because I have a business, and in business they teach you opposite, which is get straight to the point, your target marketing audience.
Me too. I got an MBA, so my brain is business.
Yes, me too.
I'm like,
straight to the point. Let's understand what we're talking about. Let's set those parameters. So
let me give you some deliverables before you leave.
Exactly.
So you know what to come back with.
Exactly. And I think, okay, so one of the things that I heard you say, and this is for the audience member too, like, instead of thinking about the ideal relationship with someone else, start with yourself first. And think about the ideal relationship that you would want to have with yourself first. And then counteract with the ideal relationship you would want to have with someone else. And then find a flow and a rhythm communication wise. Are you a person that likes small talk? Are you the type of person that likes directness? And then figure out your why. And then for those women who have children, like myself, is your motive or your reasoning for wanting to get in a relationship because you don't really have that connection with your children and you find it hard to kind of get down their level and you're using it kind of a form of avoidance in a relationship dating? Or do you really have that stability in your home and you're ready to bring somebody into the equation? And is that something that you want for yourself? And is that going to benefit your family? Right? So like kind of slowing down, being a little bit present instead of being habitual. And really figuring out those tendencies. And then we talked about different levels of maturity in relationship when it comes to the different forms of like polyamory, polygamous relationships. And we also talked about just maturity levels for women. But I kind of want to segue it back to, if you could be in the ideal polyamorous relationship, what would that look like? The leadership in that. What would that look like?
If I could be in an ideal polyamorous relationship.
Yeah.
Okay. okay, then there would be so much trust, number one. Like, trust that this person has my overall best interest at heart, and that they know how to navigate and say no, or like filter and like vet, based on my considerations and based on their considerations for my best interest and well-being.
Would you have a say so in who gets invited into the relationship, or would you leave that solely up to the person who's choosing?
It depends on how much trust.
Would you want to go and get people to bring into the relationship, or would you leave that up to your, okay? So you would be a partner who has more of an energetic capacity to hold space for more than one person, but you
Without the manipulative aspects of
okay.
Yeah.
What are some of the things
And
that
myself, I would probably. Well, I'm a queer woman, so I would be like, is this something where you want to just have this experience on your own? You know what I'm saying? Or is this something that you want to share?
What is your definition of a queer woman? I only ask this because I feel like people have different definitions of what a queer woman is, and I just want to put it out there.
To me, queer is just like, don't put me in a box. I like what I like when I like it.
Okay. So my daughter would call that non-binary.
Well, non-binary is more so how you're presenting your identity.
Okay.
So, like, I'm definitely a woman. I'm not like a non-binary person. I identify fully as a woman, but my sexuality is more so, I could go different ways.
You go different ways. Yeah. Coming from a monogamous, you also were married, Christian background, how was that transition into being that open? Because I only ask that because I feel like part of the conditioning that we go through when you are raised in the church or in some type of religious sector, they really kind of take that privilege away from you.
Absolutely.
Really early on, too. Like, I remember learning about those limitations in Bibles in Sunday school.
So, my it was my only polyamorous relationship, but it lasted a few years, and it was kind of between that and like, the dating thing, and it was because this person was actually part of my history, like, and had grown up conservatively also, and so I felt a sense of like coverage and protection in that, in a way that I might not have explored even if I was interested with someone else who I didn't know had that same background. Because, I was like, all right, they know what it's like to kind of break out of that, and they were like cutting to more extreme, so I felt like I could fit in right here. And I've always known that I also liked women, but when I was married, it was just like something I would say, or mention.
That's what's up.
My ex-husband would never buy. He was like a very conservative.
Was he?
It was gross.
He would not let you bring another woman into the relationship?
Not at all.
That's the first. I've never heard that before.
No, he was not even into me talking about, like, suggesting that I liked other women. It's interesting. He was very straight-laced. I mean, he had other shit that was not straight-laced at all,
sure.
of course. But, like, he was, when I say straight-laced, I mean, like, more so by the book, which really frustrated me because I was so conservative. When I finally got married, I was thinking, like, this is a great thing. Like, we could take it
wild out, right?
Yeah.
I think that a lot of Christian women low-key feel that way, and that's why we be having a lot of women who are like, all right, let's get married, and then we can, they be kind of hinting to that, because they be wanting
like, I'm trying to bust it down.
Some wild stuff. I can't tell you how many men that I've said, I swear, when you get married, she's not going to be acting like that. Because I think that in men's way of not understanding women, they are very disconnected to the fact that we like to do stuff too. We just don't trust everybody
Precisely.
with our business.
Right.
And we're not going to trust everybody with our body. So, like, even like when I hear like stuff about like T.I. and Tiny and like Will Smith and Jada, I be thinking like a lot of married couples actually do that. Y'all just never know because there's a mutual respect and understanding that people have.
Mm-hmm.
So you're saying a part of your journey toward crossing over in that space was you had got married and you knew going in that that would be something that you're open to, but he wasn't interested in fulfilling your desires in that space. And I think that that for, you know, my married people that are watching this, who's like, oh, this relationship isn't for us. Yes, it is, because your husband got needs too, and you got needs too. And where I would like to see marriages get to, because the people think that, oh, the connection starts in the marriage. No, I've literally supported men that says my wife is not my best friend, and they go seek that partnership from other women. Not that they're cheating outside of their marriages, because the woman is either too conservative to have that type of intimacy with the man, or the man is too conservative and he has other men outside of their relationship that he's best friends with, and they just literally are in partnership with each other. So I think that, you know, that's different levels of intimacy that we're discussing right now, you know, to a form where when we talk about soulmates and everybody wants to like, oh, I married my soulmate. No, you didn't. You got into a business relationship with this person, and you got into either a white picket fence business partnership, you got into a business partnership, a matriarchal or patriarchal or a generational partnership, or you got into a survival mode business partnership. So it's like, which one do you want? How do you want it? And how multifaceted do you want it in? And I think that once we start seeing marriage from a multi-dimensional space rather than an act of service or a rite of passage, then we'll have more honest relationships that people can withstand in long term, instead of being something that, oh, I just checked off my to-do list because
That's
I gotta.
exactly what it was.
Another client that said his wedding was close to almost $500,000. These people were married for a year.
Damn.
Come on.
I remember when before we were getting married, and we were actually having an intimacy conversation, and he was like, I'll be able to commit to more intimacy after we get married. And because I was like, I wasn't really thinking that, but that's why when I say he was by the book and what you're talking about with like this, it's like this rite of passage, and it's like this, oh, at this point, I'm not there, but when I do this magical thing and say these magical words, then I'll be there. So what really allowed me to be free, because up until that point, because I was so conservative and I was so concerned about being good and perfect and, you know, doing all the right things right, when I was finally put to the position where I was like, all right, I have to get a divorce, like when I got over the shame and like of being someone who was getting a divorce.
Oh, God, that's a whole other conversation.
And I was like able to like find a way to get a job somewhere else and move to New York from, you know, where I was really able to start shedding that stuff. And I was really grateful that I had just busted it up, you know, because then I didn't have to pretend to be this sanitized Christian person or wife anymore.
Yeah.
You know, I could just be like, I could start shedding that stuff and be who I actually was, because like that perfect picture is fucked up anyway.
Yeah. And I think that, you know, one of the takeaways that I want people to take away from this podcast is that you are allowed, and some people need permission, right? I don't care how old you are or what you do with your life. Sometimes you need permission. So you are allowed to be as open and multidimensional as you want to be. And a part of safe partnership is that you have a level of communication with your partner, regardless of y'all status. I don't care if you've been married for 10, 15 years, 50 years, just newly married, whatever. If you can't, Anisha keeps going back to this, feel safe to be open and transparent with your partner, and then I'll add more, and that partner be able to fulfill your desires, that's not a relationship. That's a situation that you're in. Because part of growth and evolution is that you're going to always keep growing and evolving. And if you're in a relationship with a person who does not value your desires in a relationship, I don't care if you're married, that's not a marriage. I don't care if you've been in a long-term relationship with a person, that's not a long-term relationship. That is a situationship. And again, it's just my own perspective, and I'm not going off of the narrative of the traditional sense, because you can have the ceremonies. We already talked about that. It's a rite of passage. Some people just need that, right? To then realize that that person is not who they're supposed to be with, right? And so some of the things that you can start to do to really help you get in your alignment to really living a fully self-actualized life, which is really living who you are truly meant to be in an authentic way, is start by loving yourself enough to be honest to the fact that you want more, and then love yourself even more to hold yourself accountable, and then heal by having the conversation. Because one of the things that's part of the healing journey, and I want to empower people because the healing journey is starting to become like a buzzword, is a true healing journey is one where you confront yourself, and one where you hold yourself accountable, and one where you're willing to grow, and one where you're willing to hold space for yourself, and one where you're willing to nurture yourself. And everything starts with self first, and then you extend that to another person, and that person gets to heal because you can hold space for them, and then you can honor them, and then you can hear them out. And that's how we start really truly healing generationally, spiritually, emotionally, and financially, because suppression isn't a part of our spiritual nature. It's not. And so I feel like this conversation has been amazing, Stevie. Thank you so much for the transparency.
We getting transparent, boy.
I know. I mean, but the grown woman conversations had to happen, and you got to go through some stuff to be able to have them. And you got to invite people into the conversation. And so I want to invite more people to have these conversations with us. And so, again, this podcast is all about authenticity and transparency. If we said something, if I said something, if Stevie said something, and you have something that you want to comment, we invite that. Or come on to the show. Like, write in. If y'all want to come down and be a part of it, you feel like you have a perspective you want to share, each one teach one, right? This is not a space where we can't be safe people and have conversations. So if you feel like you have something to say, then I want to invite you to say it. I also want to let people know, because I had a run-in with this weekend, I don't take too kindly to disrespect. And that's it. So, Stevie, what are some key takeaways and aha moments that you can share with the audience?
Leave room for mistakes.
Yay, mistakes.
Yeah. That's the most freeing thing, that wave that I've been on. And so, like, throughout these conversations and sharing our experiences, the reason why I can even talk about it now is because I give grace to myself. And I'm like, oh, I was never meant to have this perfect sanitized situation.
Okay.
I can just show up as I am. And, like, that is not, like, that's more than enough.
Okay. Yes, grace in the right alignment.
Yes.
Yes.
Got room to wiggle.
It's not grace to give people passes or give yourself passes. Grace where you allow yourself space to grow. Grace. So this has been another amazing episode of Black Aspiration with Nia. I want to thank Stevie for being amazing and wonderful in all things feminine energy. And I want to thank you, the audience, for being another amazing participant in this show. So we will see you back next time. Peace.